Okay, good evening. This is John Bushka, and I want to talk a little bit about Project 2025. I wrote a blog post in detail analyzing some of its points and that I thought were controversial, particularly about LGBTQ issues and some other associated implications and topics that I'll give you the link for. But let me just start by saying, making a general comment, and that means I'll go to a whiteboard and it's this one. And I just want to talk a little bit about family first versus the individual and versus intersectional groups. The um, conservatives believe particularly that the family unit and leading to the tribe and ethnicity and religious group and so forth naturally occurs to reproduce, to bring up children, and it's also prepared to survive adversity, to help people take care of each other and help people learn to take care of dependents while still maintaining their individual agency while doing so. But of course, because the world is sort of a zero-sum game, the families or tribes or ethnicities, whatever, can go to war against each other. So it's good that society has some people that are perhaps not socialized that way, which of course we associate in extreme forms, we can associate with fascism sometimes. The mass movement group, which is often comprises various marginalized peoples that may be intersectional. It provides solidarity and comradeship, but it limits individual agency, and sometimes it is sort of religious in nature too. I also wanted to mention that the family values themselves, particularly on the right. People, they may feel that the control of others that they want within their group is necessary for the family to survive in a zero-sum game world, where they have to compete with others. They may also believe that they're born better than others, or that they may be privileged, but they may desire not to have anything taken away from them as a member of a group. They may feel they're entitled to it by birth, or they may feel in a modern world that individuals can earn their way to the top and justify being better off than others, by rising themselves up from their bootstraps, and they can claim superiority to others that way. So there's an element of superiority, not wanting to be contaminated by others that you think of as inferior, that kind of thing. When you have this kind of value system, which we normally associate with the right, there's a certain degree of emotionality and humility we associate with the left, which sometimes it turns into trying to sell victimization. So then you have the individual where where you maximize personal freedom to make your own choices in life and to actually speak out and publish the truth as you find it. And it may maximize your short-term agency. And remember, in a communal setting like on the left, you don't have as much individual agency to do things for yourself, but the individual can. But then the individual doesn't have any easy way to take care of others. So the individual doesn't have his skin in the game, so to speak. That's another important topic, skin in the game. So, lone wolves die, but we also cannot allow others to speak for ourselves, or we cannot be expected to speak for others and be known for things that we didn't actually believe. So you have these three ways of looking at things. Now, I want to move on to uh, some of the overall provisions on Project 2025 in view of what I just discussed. And on the surface, and particularly on the social values thing, it seems to target transgender people particularly. It even in one place seems to consider transgenderism pornographic by nature. Uh, And it doesn't seem to attack almost, some homosexuals as we have known them in the past. It doesn't, I didn't see any place that it wanted to return to sodomy laws or erase gay marriage or anything. It seemed transgenders aren't supposed to be in the military, but it didn't seem to object to gays themselves. But as we know that as time goes on, gay, homosexuals, gay men and lesbians, as we have known them in the past, can get dragged into the fight because they still have similar needs and their backgrounds, particularly men, often, growing up as gay men was a different way to adapt rather than looking at gender identity, which has become more expected in recent years. There's more in common than perhaps we would like to admit. And I talk about that a lot in the blog post. So you could be looking at partial speech bans and trying to ban topic discussion, but not only transgenderism, but homosexuality, which is the case in Russia now. And it seems to be the case at least in front of children in Hungary now. Orban's Hungary under a new law passed in 2021. You could see that them try to replicate that here, and that could certainly lead to trying to require universal age verification and log on to all sites, even if they don't do any transactions. So that was something I wanted to cover. But yeah, I'll just hold up some objects. The Capitol, the Pentagon, they're from my train set. The Washington Monument with a thermometer on it for the heat is it's going to get a lot hotter this year with the elections. One of the things that is underneath the surface that really concerns me is that there seems to be this idea that, particularly this was in the past, that the presence of, and particularly for men, of gay men in a closed environment, particularly even in the dorm, would interfere with the socialization of other more quote normal men, that their inclination to have and raise children. That was kind of the concern when I was in William and Mary in 1961, that it would disrupt just even the idea of being scoped by somebody who thought the way I did. Could it disrupt the socialization of others? That was the fear. That was almost like another gender. If I wasn't going to have children myself, it almost made me like another gender. That was kind of how they thought back in 1961. And that would translate today into concerns in some countries about low birth rates, and the idea that, particularly like in Russia, maybe Hungary, some of the other Eastern European countries, that young men are not interested in, and for that matter, young women, in reproducing and having children and continuing the population, which they're very worried about for their own national survival. However, there are a lot of other economic reasons, women's roles, but also just great inequality between the rich and the poor also probably makes raising families harder. So that may be just a scapegoating reason, finding someone to blame. I just want to also reiterate the act is very important to me. I speak for myself. I can't join other groups and speak for them right now, or pretend that they can speak for me. Be known for, for victimhood, or for championing a certain group or something, and or for service when I don't have my own content. That's very important to me. That's something we'll talk about later. May sound very selfish, but that's the way I feel. Anyway, I'll give you the link to this, to this blog post that discusses this in more detail. And then the next major talk like this will be about personal agency and really what that means to me. So anyway, for this evening, I do thank you for listening.